as soon as it allows you to. Don't have to wait for us. But yeah, so for those of you that are hopping along to watch the Real Estate Lab, we're happy to have you here. Right now we're waiting for Daphne, our counterpart, to hop on. She's having some Chrome update issues, but today's topic is going to be pretty fun. It's rent versus buy. JJ, do you have a lot of clients that are asking you about like the prices of what the prices are to buy a home versus the prices to rent a home?
Generally, I think first-time home buyers are transitioning people into Austin are figuring out if it's a good play. For instance, I have a client right now that's doing a construction project at University of Texas,
Okay.
and he's only here for about a year, and he's curious if he should rent for that year or so, and it could be longer, but he also might leave. So it's all what's also interesting to him is his rent if he buys and rents it out as well. So that's another aspect of buying and then leaving to rent it out. So, but very, very common.
You know, I actually had that exact conversation with a new client today, and she said her daughter is going to UT next year, and then she has a current daughter that's at UT this year, who's a sophomore. So her current daughter has like 2 years to go, 2-ish years, could be
Hmm.
more or less, right? And then the new daughter has 5 years starting next year. And I'm like, okay, so basically they're going to be in this place for 5.5, 6 years, right? And so she was looking to lease a place. And I said, would you consider, if I could make the numbers make sense for you, would you consider maybe buying a place instead of renting a place? And the answer is almost always as long as the location's good and the numbers make sense, right? And so I think that's a
Answer.
common conversation for people. Like, what are they paying to rent versus what will they pay to own the place? And then let's say they move out in 5 years, 6 years, will they get their money back?
Yeah. And just like any other neighborhood in Austin, I think what's interesting about Austin is University of Texas, that whole bubble of campus activity, maybe I've called it a kiddie condo. Like you're buying this for your kid, a condo. How many kids are going to go in there, or family members? How long are you going to rent it out? All part of the equation there. Daphne, you made it.
Hi. Yep, I'm having to hop on through my phone.
We're talking about how often our clients ask us about rent versus buying, and what instances do we see in that regard.
Yeah. Are
Aaron
you
wanted
asking me?
everybody to know that I upgraded my internet from 56K, in case you were curious.
Thank goodness.
Congratulations.
It's
Thank
been a
you.
ride.
I
Yeah,
also,
Daphne.
just kind of an FYI, I got a fan for my camera because every once in a while, you know how it would shut off?
Yeah.
I was sick of it. So I spent the $50 and bought a fan for this camera. So no more shutting down because it's overheating in my room.
Oh, I didn't know that's what it was.
It
Yeah.
has one fan?
It's a fan that attaches to the back of the camera because it's a big camera, right? And so it's probably 80 degrees in this room. With I have multiple computers running and other stuff, and so it gets really warm. I love it. Like I moved to
It's the
Texas
only
to be
fan?
warm. It's my only fan. Sorry, I missed that.
Mm,
Yeah, I did miss that. I got another one up there.
awesome. Anyway,
Yeah. What's your experience with clients asking you about rent versus buy, and how does that look in your world?
honestly, I don't really deal with that. My clients usually, not usually, they always come to me ready to buy. I never have to guide much from one to the other.
That's another thing. We're not like no one here is specializing in like apartment locating. I think we're like sales agents.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
for
Well,
sure.
yeah.
okay, so I have this conversation anytime I have a new realtor that I'm training. I kind of say it like this: it's easy to find people that need to rent something, easier than finding people that need to buy something,
Yes.
but it's going to be more work for less money. However, sometimes when you help somebody lease something, they're a little more grateful. Or it's not that they're more grateful, it's that there's some kind of like appreciation level to it because they know it's a lot of work. Right? So like my one of my top referring clients was actually somebody who leased a property years later, still hasn't bought anything, but has referred me like 6 other buyers.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
it's crazy because she appreciated that I was there for her when nobody else was, and it was really challenging to help her find a place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it's a real specialization. I don't think agents are necessarily, especially seasoned ones, are like 50% tenant representation and then 50%, buyers and listing agents. I don't think it works like that.
I think
I
JJ's
wanted
right.
I wanted to bring this up because as we're talking about the lease versus buying, so Aaron says his comment is the reason why Austin will keep growing no matter what is because of the Texas Triangle. Would one of you like to elaborate on that?
I would guess it's the cities,
Yeah.
San
Yeah,
Antonio,
yeah.
Dallas, Houston, and we're in the middle of it.
Right. And so with people that are coming to work here for let's say they're coming from Houston to work here for the Boring Company, or coming from Dallas, maybe they're graduating from Dallas and they want to get a job in tech or transition to UT or something like that, right? Like you have a lot of this inner city travel, and so because of where we are in between all of the other large cities, I don't ever see there being a chance that we're going to slow down here, which affects our rent and our buying. A
Hmm.
Let's
lot of
talk
people
about
rent
that.
rent before they buy.
So, I guess what would be the benefits of renting or buying, or how do you think there's people here that want to buy and then they're stuck renting?
Ooh. So Daphne, you said you didn't have this issue, but I mean, tell me if you hear this. Like I have people that they'll rent because they think buying is too hard or they don't know like how to start the process for buying. Have you had that? Or do you have people talking about that at all?
No, just and I know it's a real thing, so I'm not trying to like cut myself out of the conversation at all. Please, please don't look at it that way. It's just so many of the clients that I get are through YouTube, and on my YouTube, I am so adamant and so purposeful with. I work in sales, whether you're buying or selling a home. I go over every year, at least once a year. I put out a new video, the process of buying a home. So naturally, that's who it attracts. Um, and personally, I always believe, and I really want to jump into numbers down the line too, but
Yeah,
I really believe so strongly in owning property in some capacity that that's just what I've been preaching since day one of being a realtor, that's who I've tended to work with. So
Yeah, I would say obviously I
there.
get more sales than leases too, but what so I have a decent subset of investor type clients too, where when we have our first consultation, I'll say, listen, if you're going to buy a house, are you planning to live in this? Are you going to sell it in the future, or are you going to rent it out? And so that actually becomes a really common conversation as well. Like if you're buying this home, you're buying it as an investment, whether you sell it or rent it later. And so the question is, do you know what the rents are in that area that you're buying? So I
Mhm.
still end up circling back around to that conversation. It might be for a different purpose, but yeah, rental prices are something that a lot of buyers I feel should keep an eye
A
on and
hundred
don't.
percent. Yes. I'm totally with you there. I do this basically the same with my clients. I always asking what's the plan with this house? And yeah, that conversation always comes up. And I think if you can go into your first property kind of as an investor, that's such a great hack and it's such a way to add assets. Oop, we got more comments?
Yeah, Aaron's on fire today. You want to read them? You want to read them?
Let's see. It's tiny on my phone, so I can't really see them.
Oh, it's
Can
okay.
you help
So
me?
Aaron says, so
Oh,
rent prices will always go up, but buying will fix your cost except taxes and insurance.
yep.
I think renting makes sense if you aren't going to establish roots. And I think that's what JJ was talking about, like whether or not it makes sense to rent versus buy. And then Aaron's follow up comment was the only reason you'd make another argument, i.e., cash bros, is if you believe the US will have deflation, meaning you think the labor and material cost of building a home will go down. And so I think that's like an incredible question. Do you think it will cost less to build a home in the same vicinity this time next year or the year after in Austin, Texas?
Will it cost less?
Like when considering labor, cost of materials, all of that stuff, do you think it'll be less to build a home next year? And even if it is, do you think that builders will charge less?
Right.
Ah, that's such a multifaceted question with so many little pieces to it. JJ, take it away.
I mean, okay, so let's assume, I don't know, they sell for like 10,000 less, 20,000, right? Pick a number, 15. As you're waiting for this potential crash or price reduction, how many months of rent and how much is your rent as you're waiting? And I love Daphne's point, but I don't want to just be like, we're realtors, go buy. But like there if you're planting roots, like our guest was saying, over time, because of the way Austin trends are, ownership is typically good, and your those payments are going into the house as that person might be waiting. Now, if the market's going down and it's weird, yeah, maybe, but I I'm bullish on Austin in the long run.
hmm Can I can I kind of add to that a little bit?
Sure.
Yeah. So you had mentioned like maybe next year prices are going to go down 10, 15,000, et cetera. And the truth is that they have come down significantly during 21 and 22 when we had no inventory and builders, so builders, of course, everyone was charging a lot, but we had problems with the supply chain, material costs went up, um, and there was so much demand, everything skyrocketed. And then the following couple of years, when things kind of leveled out, right, where we are now, prices came down.
Hmm.
Um, and it's kind of like looking into a crystal ball, like what's going to happen in the next couple of years. We don't know 100%. Will prices continue to go down? Maybe, but I agree with you, Jada. Like probably not more than 10, 20,000.
Yeah. Especially at this point. I
Well,
think in 2022, yeah, those
that's
couple
kind of why I pulled up the stats, which dropped, I believe, today or yesterday,
yeah,
for the
6% here.
because you can see that average days on market is almost 80 days, which is an increase, right? So that's big. The list price to close price, people will list it. Let's say they list it at 500,000. They're only getting 92% of that,
Yep.
right? So people are making lower offers and sellers are accepting them. And then with your active listings, I think last month was 12,300, but even still, well, maybe not, right? But over 12,000 active listings. We looked at this last episode. Back in the COVID times, we were at around 3,000 active listings,
Yeah.
right? And homes did not sit for 80 days on the market. And so that's bringing the number of houses closed down, the sales price down, and the total volume of sales in Austin down. And then our months of inventory, real quick, is 5.9 months, almost 6 months of inventory, which is a balanced market,
hmm
according to whatever the historical criteria was. But 6 months was
Wow.
always considered a
We
balanced
hit
market. So we're
six.
finally at what's considered a balanced market in Austin.
Who thought that would happen?
I didn't think it would. Well, uh, I was never worried, or I was never assuming that we wouldn't hit a balanced market, but I did feel we would never hit a complete buyer's
Buyers.
market like we're about to.
Yeah, because sales are down, listings are up.
Well, like it's ebb and flow. Like there are seasons, right? But this is like if we get to 7 and 8 months of inventory in Austin, that's going to severely. I feel like it could severely lower our median sales price, and that was not
Yes.
anticipated by anybody.
And kind of a little note on that. It's like I feel sometimes homes are on the market so long and they have so many price cuts right now that pricing almost doesn't matter.
Well,
Like you
right,
can
yeah,
cut and cut
pricing
and
doesn't
cut.
matter. Well, that's why
Yeah.
you have the average prices lower than what's listed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And builders are doing that. Resale people are doing that. Everybody's doing that. You have a house on the market. I say that in every video I put on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok or whatever. It's like, listen, I don't need to tell you the price because the price doesn't matter. What matters is what you're willing to pay for it. So Aaron says, Prices might have gone down due to interest rates, but the overall payment has become more.
Yep.
Mhm.
He's right there. I feel like
Okay.
as interest rates are decreasing and the prices will either stabilize or increase. You guys will come back to that one, but I'd love to hear what you think on that. You can
Mhm.
always refi, yes. And refis are like 1 to 2% of the loan, but with a lower payment, you will easily make your money back. He is also, I feel like he's correct there as well.
Yeah.
So let's go back and talk about the interest rates. Do you think if interest rates, one, do you think they will continue to drop? And when they do, how do you think that will affect our market?
I don't fully have an answer for that, but I want to say one of my clients got approved for his loan today. He locked in a loan at 5.6%, which is probably one of the lowest that I've seen this year. Side note. So hopefully that's a good sign of things to come.
JJ, what are your thoughts on that?
It's hard because we work in Austin very specifically, which arguably inflated the most, maybe in the country. So I hear nationally the consensus is to lower the interest rates, right? It's just that when we possibly may have some deflation to deal with, but you're gonna stimulate purchasing real estate again or borrowing money to buy real estate again. Uh, I don't know. I don't know what that means. It typically means people do it, but again, they have to write the right offer.
So Aaron thinks that once the prime interest rate hits 5.5%, it will cause the Austin market to start skyrocketing again. How do
Hmm.
you feel about that number? 5.5%. The prime interest number.
I'll say this much. Generally, by 2028, I think it'll be positively sloping. Like, I don't know if 2025, it could be flat. It might dip a little bit more.
Mm.
2026, I don't know, something similar maybe. 2027, I think there's going to be some form of it's coming back. I think it would come back strong. I just don't know when that strength would hit. Like I said, I think we hit some really high activity in
Yeah.
the past few years. Right, arguably highest in the nation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It's
we're
very
a little different from everything else going on. I think the other Texas cities probably have a lot more space for appreciation,
yeah.
but I also know we're the tech city in Texas, which is different too.
Yeah, I don't want to miss out on our actual topic of conversation, which was renting versus buying. So, when people are looking at renting a place, where do you think they're looking for their numbers? Where do you think they're finding their numbers?
For like rent values,
Yeah,
I think Zillow a lot, realtor.com, right?
JJ, what do you think?
Uh, I'm thinking of like, for example, I know like a young mature professional that loves the domain, so she lives at the domain. She rents, right? You could figure out the apartment rental rates at, I don't know, apartment.com or something like that. Um, and I think sometimes renting for somebody like that, they don't know where they're going to live, even though they might end up living in Austin for a few years, but they just didn't know that. Like they think about leaving and then the flip side is maybe for that rental rate. Because the thing is, there's high home prices, rental rates don't necessarily catch up with the prices. So, it might be a good deal to live there. Otherwise, her mortgage might be further out, like not at the domain, not in North Central Austin.
Hmm.
So, I want to talk about methods, right? So, when people are looking, Daphne, you said Zillow and Realtor.com, right?
Hmm.
Um, I'm going to agree with you on that. You have Zillow, you have Realtor, you have a few others. So I'm going to share. So like you have
Ooh,
Hot
hot too.
Pads,
Yeah.
Redfin. Actually Redfin might not have rentals at all. Do they? Yeah, they do. They have rentals too.
Yeah.
Zillow, Realtor, Rent.com, which is owned by Homes.com. The thing is, and I don't know that a lot of people who are looking, whether you're an investor and you're going to rent something out, or if you're a person looking to lease a place, I don't know how many people actually understand how it works. So first off, most of the data comes from the same place. What's changing is how frequently you see it, or like how easy it is to see it. So, or how frequently it's updated, and then how pretty the website is. It's really that, like how user friendly is the website, and then how frequently it's updated. But before you do that, you have to decide: are you focused on a rental for a house, or a rental for a condo or an apartment? Because oftentimes those are different databases. Okay, so when you are working with a real estate professional, they also have a website that you can go to, and you can find rents there too. So you can find rental homes, you can find apartments, you can find all that sort of stuff as well. So it just depends on what you are comfortable with, and then what type of place you're looking for. I feel like if you're planning to stay in the area for a while, just like JJ and Daphne said, then you should, while you're looking at the rental prices, you should also be looking at what it could take to buy a place in that same area. Mm-hmm. Because I think another thing that people get caught up in is they go to buy, they rent in an area, let's say the Domain, they love the area, and they're like, you know what, I love it here, I want to stay here, let me start looking to buy. But they don't start looking for 3 years after they've been renting there for 3 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think the prices are going to be more affordable? Historically, no. They might be in a position right now where they are just as affordable as when they rented 3 years ago in the Domain. But that's what we're here to look at today.
Yeah.
So what's the timing like? Like I was talking about that client when I opened up. He's going to be here for a year, but his job might make him stay longer. So for a year and a half, couple years, should he purchase or just rent? And then there's people that might stay 3 years or 4 years. Like, is there an amount of time that you think, hey, if you're going to be here for X amount of years, pull the trigger? Like that's where you consider planning routes.
Well, I think it's all going to boil down to the numbers.
Yeah.
Right, Daphne, when you look at the numbers for buying, how do you determine how long they need to stay in a place before it makes sense for them to buy? Like, do you have a way to determine that?
I guess I don't get the question fully. Can you probably?
All right,
so,
so let's say the same thing applied to JJ's client who is going to live here for a year. And he's like, I want to buy a place, but I'm only going to live here for a year. And then I want to sell it. Like, at what point do you say, yes, it's worth it, or no, it's not?
Gotcha. I mean, I do get people like this every now and then. They're like, I'm only going to be in the house 2 years and I want to sell. And immediately I jump in and I'm like, usually that's not going to work out well. And then we do a breakdown of why that could be. And then one of the big things we talk about, of course, is capital gains. But so many homes today, let's say he were to buy a house, a condo, apartment, whatever, today and sell it in exactly a year, he's like, not for sure. We know he's not going to make enough money. He's going to be upside down unless he goes in with like zero down, but still he's probably not even going to recoup his monthly payments at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Market fluctuation.
Right. And now personally, because I believe so strongly in owning property and renting it out. I always tell folks and we are very lucky living in Texas. One of the things I have figured out are landlord laws. We have so many laws in place that are protecting the landlords. And though nobody ever really wants to do an eviction, if you have to, it happens pretty quickly. And most of the time, the court is going to side with the landlord, unlike some other states in the U.S. that are very much renter friendly. And if you're a landlord, you're totally screwed. So I always tell folks, if you're only going to be in it for a couple of years, plan to rent it out for a little bit. That's what I have to say.
You're saying that 2 years, they should probably rent for those 2 years. Generally.
Not necessarily. I thought the question was when they should sell it.
Well, so it's going to be different. That's kind of the point here, right? It's going to be a different number. It's a different length of time, whether they're going to rent it for a year or they're going to sell it. And I think that's what keeps people on the fence if they have the resources.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Or the knowledge. Because I don't think everybody has the knowledge when they're looking to rent a place. They're like, I need rent and I've got $800 a month to spend. I want to spend less than $900 a month and I need to rent a place. That's not the same person that's looking to buy a place
Yeah.
in that same area. You're not going to get a mortgage. Well, see, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
You might get a mortgage payment like that, but not with your taxes and your interest and your insurance and utilities, right? And so the question is, if somebody's starting to eclipse that number, if they're starting to get to, let's say here, where it's $2,900 a month for this house to rent, okay? Well, if you're spending $3,000 a month, could you just buy something in this area or close to this area?
Where is that? I can't see it on my screen. I'm sorry. What part of town is that?
So I'm going to pull it up.
Oh, okay. North Austin.
All right, so
North Central-ish.
So we're talking a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. Because here's the thing: if you're buying a 4-bedroom or you're renting a 4-bedroom, 2-bath by yourself, what if you were the person that bought the 4-bedroom, 2-bath and rented out the other 3 rooms? Let's say it was for college kids or something like that, right? Like you got to think about why people are renting it.
Yeah, this goes back to the benefits of owning. You can start doing things like that, right?
Yeah. Or
And especially,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, especially right now, because the market is so flatlined, so many sellers are willing to accept FHA or zero down programs or just like minimum investment loans, which really puts buyers in such a sweet spot. You don't have to go in with 20, 30% down anymore. And if you're smart, like Ian was saying, and well, not just smart, but like able in a place in your life where you can have roommates, then that's a smart way to pay off the loan with other people's money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do y'all have a lot of clients that the term's what, house hacking? That's what the people are calling it nowadays, which is basic like landlord, tenant, renting.
Live-in.
Yeah.
Bedroom rentals.
Do you work with people that do this strategy? Like, I feel like it's also because the prices are so high, it's kind of what people are just kind of like doing to get their foot in the door. Like it's more popular now because it's also more
I wanted
expensive,
to pull up,
and people are
while
kind
you
of
guys are talking
doing
about
it
that, I wanted to pull up
strategically
this
also.
same area for sale and see what we've got.
Do you got house hackers, Daphne?
No,
Am I frozen?
not really. I mean, it'll be maybe one every few years, but I'm such a strong believer in that strategy. That's how I was able to build my portfolio. I wish more people do that if they're in the place in life where they can do that.
I know. I bring it up a lot too.
Right.
And people are like, "Oh, I can't have a roommate." I'm like,
Yeah.
So right
"You could have
right
more
here,
money."
you got 2 houses happen to be neighbors, right? One's listed at active $399, so $400,000 for that exact same house, that's exact same neighborhood.
Uh-oh, I think you froze.
Hello? Did we lose
As
Ian?
this house.
Oh, Ian, we lost you. What was it? You said active and then it cut out.
So you got this house for rent, where the rent is $2,900 a month.
Mhm.
Okay, you've got this house here that's listed at $399, been on the market 7 days.
Okay.
Listed at $399, $400,000.
Can I run the numbers on that?
Yeah, that's kind of what I want, right?
Okay.
But also
Yes.
look at the interior. I have a feeling the interior is probably different from that rental.
Let's
We're
take a
gonna
quick
look at
peek.
I mean, it is original.
Original, built in 1965. OG. Hey, look.
But you know what, guys?
Still nice.
Pause 1 second. Excuse me 1 second. If I know this neighborhood, and if you go north of here, literally 4.5, 5 minutes, you will find yourself in Wells Branch, and you can still get let's say a 3-bedroom home in Wells Branch for around 400. That's mostly ready to go.
Well, that is very true. So the second thing that people have to think about is if they're renting, do school districts matter to them? Right? Because if you move into another neighborhood, it might shift your school district. But if you're, let's say, a couple that doesn't have children, or you're a single, self or employed person, or it doesn't really matter. The point is either the school districts matter or they don't. And if they don't matter, then your answer absolutely makes perfect sense. Go 5 minutes north, get the same thing.
But generally we're talking about location. 5 minutes is still different, right? Like you're starting to talk about, this is kind of central Austin. The point is, because of Austin pricing, where you rent is a better deal, just like straight up dollar per month
Mm-hmm.
Hold on.
for quality of
Hold
A
on.
lot of
home.
messages.
When you
So
try to match that, you move further away from that location, kind of like further away from central.
I don't know if Aaron is talking about me or you or what's happening, but he said IP over avian carrier. That is funny. That's funny. And then you need to know the area. So, as realtors, we're not allowed to cite crime statistics, but there are plenty of websites out there that you can look at that will tell you about particular areas. But that's also relative, right? Like if you're from the south side of Chicago or if you're from the favelas in Brazil, that's a very different world than literally anywhere in Austin or
Mm-hmm.
Central Texas. And then the pink house guy, I don't know if that's a detractor. Dude, everybody knows about the pink house
Yes.
guy,
Oh my God.
right? So he has a Pepto Bismol pink house. He's actually a veteran from what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the house and saw him outside, and it's just one of those things where he may have been, I'll say, screaming for attention,
Yep.
but also that's kind of the freedom of living in a place with no HOA. You know,
Mm. Okay.
eh,
All right.
okay.
So I ran some numbers real quick, if I may.
Yeah,
So for that house that's asking for 100,000, I popped it into one of my favorite mortgage calculators. It's called mortgagecalculator.org. And I
Yep.
put a sales price of 395,
Okay.
a down payment 3.5%. I
Okay.
put a slightly higher interest rate. I put 5.8. Property taxes, I put about 8,500 a year. PMI is included in there.
right.
1,800 a year for property insurance. And let's calculate the payment on that.
Okay. So
So
that's this house, right? The Spearman one.
Mm-hmm.
yes,
395.
Okay. So
yes.
you're right on with the estimated property tax. Again, this is assuming. Well, so this is they have a homestead right now and an over 65 exemption, but with this property tax rate, I can see it staying fairly low, and there's
Hmm.
no HOA either. So yes to all of the things you said.
Perfect. So all of that gave us a grand payment of $3,253 a month.
So we've got 3,200 a month, or you rent in this neighborhood for 2,900 a month. Now, what's the difference? You're getting an extra bedroom and what, five, six
See,
hundred square feet,
And it's
600 square
remodeled.
feet. And you're
and it's
also,
remodeled.
yep, and you also get to keep, let's say, $14,000 in your pocket because of the down payment.
True. So yeah, you get to keep some of the down payment, but um, at some point there's going to be a break even. I don't know what that
Hmm.
timeline is, but also you own it, and
Yep.
you can always rent out a portion of the house and make if that's your thing and make income from it.
So you're sacrificing the quality of housing because you could see the difference, right? The other one was remodeled more heavily. The
Yep.
rental, you're going to be having roommates, and your payments are going to be higher too.
They'll be a little bit higher, but if you have roommates, then they won't be, right?
Yeah,
Because the roommates will be paying.
and that's
This is
kind of the
single family.
sacrifice that you'd have to make to be a homeowner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I got my first house, it was a new construction, like pretty spacious. It was very nice. New construction townhome in Pflugerville, and it had 4 bedrooms. And I rented out 3 of the bedrooms. So I literally did not have a mortgage for the first year and a half that I lived there. Was it sexy? No, not at all. No 20-something-year-old girl wants to be living with a bunch of roommates,
Yeah,
realistically.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I lived in my master bedroom and like cooked sometimes, and that was it. And then I was out of the house working. So it's like, no, it wasn't like living the dream, but it was a really good way to get equity with somebody else's money.
Yeah. Well, and there are some other variables in there. So maybe, I don't know if you travel a lot. I know you travel a lot, Daphne, right? And
Hmm.
so if you're traveling, you could even have this on an STR while you're traveling.
Hmm.
And that alone could probably cover any difference and, any difference or extra cash to make sure that it brings your rent down a lot. Now, I know a lot of
Yeah.
people don't want that because it's not a
Disruptive.
stable number, right?
Yeah.
It's a variable number, but I mean, you could make 1,000, 2,000 extra a month based on when it is.
Hmm.
Also, if you have extra money year to year, Ian, the thing is, when you pulled this up, I already knew the other property is remodeled.
Yes.
So Another benefit of home ownership is you could add value to the property. You could add value to the lot. You could put one of
100%.
the like modular sheds back there and have an extra space, added square footage, remodel that over time, paint the exterior, and then you could get to a price like the other home that he pulled up that was remodeled, and it was hundreds of thousands more.
Yeah, that one was 200,000 more. It was at 600,000 for that price. And so you're right. So like if you have this house and you do nothing to it and you sell it in 5 years, let's say it doesn't get any, there's no negative impact to the home, and you sell it in 5 years, do you think you will walk away with a profit? Yes or no question?
Yes.
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 If you were renting it for $3,000 a month or $2,900 a month for 5 years, and then you exited or you moved, do you think you'll walk away with a profit?
Absolutely hard no.
Well, I mean, I think it depends on what you invested the extra money in, but if you have any extra money. But yeah, you're right.
There's
For the
arguments
property
people are
itself,
like, I'd put money into the stock market or,
yes. Yeah, and you have that, right? Like you have people that'll say, well, I'd rather rent something for $2,000 a month and spend the extra $900 and put it in the market or in some other investment strategies. But realistically, this seems like, and again, I'm not evaluating the property yet. I don't know anything about this particular property, but at first glance, location, opportunity, and the fact that it's kind of older stuff. Like it could use a facelift, but I don't think it's in a position where people can't move in and rent it or live there or short term it, if that's allowed in this neighborhood. Might fix a couple fence panels, clean it up a little bit, but I mean, it's kind of ready to go for essentially the same price monthly.
I have another creative possibility.
It is. I know. That's why I was like, oh, and that's at the list price. The list price is $400. We saw, based on the numbers, that they're not actually going. Not all homes are going for that list price. Now, obviously,
92%.
Everything is variable, but who's to stop somebody from offering, hypothetically, let's say $350?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
And the seller might say, no, just because you did that, we'll take $410. It's like, oh, well.
I'm curious how long this has been on the market, too.
7 days.
This one was short, 7 days.
That's
only a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? Do you think it'll sit? We have over 12,000 active homes on the market. Do you think this will sit at this price point in this area?
That is a really popular area. I'm looking at it. Sorry, go ahead.
I think they're getting offers right now. I didn't say they're good, but someone's making an offer.
Yeah, they're probably getting like an investor offer.
Like to me, that's North Central Austin. Yeah. That's like north of Crestview. I mean, there's some high end. That's across there's like multi-million-dollar houses around the other.
Yeah.
Got a couple more comments coming in. So let's see. Aaron said, tell him to go to Bombshells on 35 on a Friday night. Funny enough, 2 weeks ago, I was at Bombshells on a Friday night on 35. I will say that is the worst service I've ever had in the Austin area. It was very bad. They handed us all a bunch of IOUs and free appetizers. It was like we waited 45 minutes or something to get appetizers, something crazy like that. Anyway, so Aaron says people are crazy. James agrees. True. Janitor on fire. Well, I wonder if that's something that I should catch. So overpriced, overbuilt, overhyped, over weird. And Aaron says, oh, look, a troll. And janitor said, just facts.
Yeah, some people don't like the real estate around there. That's open to opinion.
I don't understand how you couldn't like real estate in an area. I mean, the fact is it is a thing you can invest in. And if you're just looking at numbers and it makes sense, it's a tool, period.
It's really, I always tell people just do, how you did math equations in school, like Johnny had 5 apples,
Yeah.
You're just like doing math. I would encourage people to just do math. Like, okay, if, it was a mortgage, what would this look like? Here's another creative idea. Let's say you own the property, but you don't have remodeling money. is it possible that you could partner up with a contractor or an investor to bring in material and give him a split of what you think their raised value would be and split the profits after the sale? Do you
I don't
think
think
that?
I understood what you were asking.
So I'm looking to the person that's like working to get into this real estate game, and now they've decided that they're not going to rent. They're going to purchase this house. They're going to sacrifice. It's not like remodeled. I'm trying to make a point that when you own a home, you got the collateral and it opens up more options. And if you
Mhm.
wanted to remodel it, I would say you could possibly make a deal with an investor to go in with you on the remodel. Like you already own it,
Oh, you're talking like a joint venture,
a joint
and
venture,
and then turn it into a sale or a
and
flip
then like
essentially.
a flip when you're done. Like you do your house hacking, you
Oh,
got appreciation. At this tail end, you want to go ahead and grab the value add. Is that something that could put somebody can potentially do?
I think that's if that was a full time career path, and you spent your time focused on that, and you find the right deals, I could see that. But like you were saying before, or I think Daphne was saying with the capital gains, and then just the whole logistics and project management aspect of
Mhm.
it. I don't know if it was to buy and hold, like if you were to buy, do some updates, rent it out, and just hold it that way in key locations. I think that could be a really solid strategy, especially if somebody was young and didn't have any, or just I'll say single. It doesn't matter what your age is, but if you're
hmm
single and you don't have any um, partners to get approval from, or obligations or school zones that you have to tie to, that could be a really good option. I know
yeah.
actually a lot of people that are doing similar things, but they're usually after the first project or two, they've learned enough and they have enough capital where they don't need partners,
Yeah.
right?
And I
So
like how we're able to talk about, you see what I'm saying? Like you get into the ownership position and then you have I'm a hardcore real estate guy. I'm going to project manage and do this. Or let me just lightly do it and just rent it out and just take a step back. You have all these options once you own.
hmm
Oh yeah, yeah, and well, that's how. I mean, what is it? 70%? It might be more than that. It might be less than that either. Also, but there's a large percentage of the wealth of the United States that is held as an asset in real estate, and so it
I think
just like you said,
50%.
it gives you leverage to be able to do more things.
I think 50% of people's net worth is average in like housing, roughly,
So
depending on how
I
you say
wanted
it.
to pull up a particular property. So we looked at the domain area. I wanted to kind of do that same thing for Zilker. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So I pulled up this particular home in Zilker. It's currently leased out.
Which is like super central Austin.
Yeah, right, right. Well, it's south of the river, and so 6,700 a month for a 3 bed, 2 bath, 1,700 square foot.
That's wild, but that's a great property. And I assume you can walk to Zilker Park.
I'll show you the area in just a second. There's a hot tub there, a sunroom with
Wow.
astroturf, covered astroturf, xeriscaped essentially, right? Because you don't have to worry about any of that. Plenty of room, land, and then shading from the trees. Centrally located, south centrally located. Completely updated inside. Lots of cubby holes. Like it's a really,
Yeah, for the
really
location,
nice
that's
place.
sick.
Now, like this is a comment section question. Is this worth almost 7,000 a month? I don't care where you are. Like, is this worth 7,000 a month in South Austin right now? What are your opinions on that
Did we lose
price
Ian?
point? Okay.
I think so. But I
So
think the
there's
market
that.
is about
No.
Now,
there.
if we were to look for that
Yeah.
same
But he
area,
said regardless of location. So if we're just looking at it, let's say this is like in Boise, Idaho,
No.
yeah,
or just like a random city. Is it worth
yeah.
$7,000 a month?
This is
I'm
like
gonna say no.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, definitely. Because if we're saying regardless of location for 7 grand a month, then take me to the middle of nowhere and put that house on a random body of water. I'll rent that out for 7 grand. But yeah, in the
So
middle of
I'm
a
pulling
city
up
like that, maybe
within
not.
half a
Like
mile
somebody got rental money like
in
that
the
out there.
last, let's say 30
Yeah,
days.
some people do.
Some people do.
Some people do, and then they
Yeah,
regret it. They're like, that's a
so
lot.
27 matches. So this is within half a mile. Here are our price points. So at the low end, so what was it? 1600, 1650? Okay, so this looks like it could be comparable. 3.2 at 1650 square foot. So it's listed at 950,000, right? All right. So let's open this up and see. So 6,700 a month to rent, or you can buy in this same area. And this is the house you would get.
You want to run
How much is that one? Yeah, I'm on it now. What?
$599.
It's $5.99.
No, I think it was
Am I
like
right? Oh no, I'm way off. Oh my god. I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. 950.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's say
None of the
900.
other ones were. And this is dropped 50,000.
Okay. So for this, you probably do need to do at least 10% down. You can't get a $900,000 home for 3.5 down unless you're getting a fourplex, and that's not the case. Okay, so do we know what the property taxes are on this 950 guy?
Yeah, so it's let's see, multiply it by 1.8, so I would say I would keep it at this, 17,000. No HOA,
Mm-hmm.
obviously pretty low
I
tax
would
rate.
also.
That's assuming they live here and make it a homestead.
For sure, for sure. Okay, so the numbers I'm using are we're buying it at 900, we're putting down 10%.
Click on the map.
Um,
I almost could guess what this because I'm working on a listing here, and I feel like this is. Yeah. Okay. I guess maybe 800. I feel like it's overpriced.
Okay,
so what
so
price should I
let's
use?
use those numbers. Let's use the number that you think you'd put an offer in on with the client. So let's say it was 825.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's use the 825, Daphne, for your calculator.
Okay, great. Let's do it. I'm at 825, 10% down, 5.8 interest rate, 17,000 for property taxes, a little bit of PMI in there, home insurance, 1,800 a year. Let's calculate. We are,
Still.
this is okay, this is interesting. Okay, numbers come to $5,935 a month.
Okay, so
Oh.
6,000 a month, but you get a house that looks like this on the inside.
Yeah,
Okay,
vintage.
so 6,000 a month for this house. That's with your 10% down, and knowing that you have some work to do, but same location, same neighborhood, or you get this house that's already done for you at almost 7,000 a month, 6,700 a month, but no ownership, and it's super clean.
Mm-hmm.
Same area, right? So this is a wonderful example of an evaluation that people can do, because the people that see this, they're like, listen, I'm only going to be here for a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay spending an extra $700 a month to have a wonderful quality of life, no headache when it comes to renovations or anything like that. And it's a great party pad. It's a great relaxation station. You get all that sort of stuff. No ownership, but you're only going to be here for a year.
Yeah.
Or you're going to be here, you're going to invest in Austin. You might live here for 5 years. You might only live here for a year. Let's say you live here for a year, but you never want to sell the house. You just understand that you buy a house like this and the proximity to downtown is incredible. So even after you move out, if you were to put the work into it to make it look like this, you're going to get at least, even if it was $6,500 a month. And then that's perpetually. While you're paying the mortgage down, you're perpetually getting a solid rental increase. So you're making a few $100s a month every week if you just did a standard single family rental. How much money do you think it would take to make this place look like this place?
Man,
That's
About
the real
100.
question.
I'd say
yeah,
about 100, 150.
yeah.
Okay. So if it was 150, then we kind of have to adjust our numbers for that, right?
Definitely.
So we have to go back up. What did we say for this house, JJ?
825.
825?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So now we'd have to go back up to 950 or so, maybe 975, essentially, right?
All in to match. Yeah.
To know that we're going to put that amount of money into it to make it look the same.
Yeah.
And that's assuming you're, paying retail prices on some of the work that needs to be done and not doing the work yourself or getting a deal or any of that sort of stuff. You're just finding some contractors that can get the work done, or maybe even hiring a GC.
Mm-hmm. Ian, can we take a look at, I know a lot of my clients buy homes like in the nearby suburbs,
Yeah.
like Cedar Park, Round
Yeah.
Rock,
Yeah.
Dripping. Let's look at
Yeah.
those. Kind of like a meat and potatoes price range.
Let's go to Cedar Park. And the reason why I say that is because we have a lot of growth in that area
Yeah.
and some exciting projects. We've got North Line and all that sort of stuff coming up. And
I love Cedar Park.
it still borders Austin, and it has the train, right?
Mhm.
The Cap Metro. Okay, so let's say we go. Whitestone's a little. Do you think that's a little far, or do you want to stick around Whitestone?
That's I wouldn't go any further north than that.
Okay, so let's look at Whitestone. We've got this house here. Let's do this one. I'm cherry picking, right? So this one's
Yeah.
2.6. 3-bed, 3-bath, almost 2,300 square feet, at more than $1 a square foot, at almost 2,600 a month.
Okay.
Okay, completely empty, but it's a new construction home. So there's a decent probability that nobody's ever even lived in the house,
Mm-hmm.
or only one owner's lived in the house for a short while. All right, so we're here. We're gonna go back to the MLS. So you've got the address, so
I
you can
didn't
start
get
putting
it
in numbers.
for, I don't know, 500?
You think it's
Let's
worth?
find something. Cedar Park's probably gonna be closer to like 650 if it's new like that.
It is super new. I was wondering if they're using like old pictures when it was new.
All right, so I've got there you go, a few of these. This is the same area, so 360, 425, 657, and 655. I'm going to start here just to see if it's even close.
Okay.
So that's 1,500 square feet. What was the other one?
Smaller.
2,300.
23.
Okay. So let's look at one of these. This is 2,300. It's not even finished yet, but it's in the same neighborhood. It's still a condo. So by the way, for people that are looking, this is a condo, a freestanding condo. All right, so we're checking this. This is one that's going to be built. It's not finished yet, so we can't really compare it. This is not finished yet, so so somebody basically bought this, never moved in, and listed it for sale is what it looks like. But let's say we did go for this. 2,300, 657 is what it's listed at? 655.
Yep.
Okay, they're both very close. So you can buy it at 655, but we still have. Actually, it's a really low tax rate for where it's at. Probably because of the monthly HOA and the fact that it's a condo. So they don't have the estimated tax rate, but we can just multiply this and this, and then $140 a month HOA.
Braun Homes.
And it's not built, but when it is done. So let's compare. Let's put these numbers in to your calculator.
What are we buying it for?
We're buying it for, I'm going to say 650 just to make the numbers easy.
Yeah.
Cool. How much are we doing down?
Your monthly, okay, that's a great question. Because this is a new build, are the people going to move into it, or are they going to rent it out? You think?
Probably going to move into it.
Okay, so if they're going to move into it, we can do a 3.5 or even a 3% down if there's a conventional loan like that, right? Okay. So let's make it 5% for easy numbers, clear communication. 5% down.
Okay, so I've got sales price $650, down payment 5%. It's an interest rate 5.6. Property taxes, I am going to put, I didn't see what they are, but I'm going to put 12,000 a year. It's got a little bit of PMI in there. Home insurance, I'm guessing is going to be around 1,200 just because it is a condo, and HOA 140 a month. So we're going to calculate. Oh
And
boy.
also
Yeah, 12,000 property taxes. You already did that, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
This is an ugly, ugly number. And I'm going
What
to
is
tell
it?
you right now, it's $5,042 a month.
Ah,
And you got to come up with that down payment. We forgot to, we kind of slid over upfront money for the
yeah.
purchase.
Okay. Okay. So this is a really, really important. Suburban,
Yeah.
new construction. We're talking 5,000 a month to buy it and rent it out, or to move into it. 5,000 a month to move into it versus renting for 2,600 a month.
Yep.
Real numbers. And both brand spanking new.
Mm-hmm. That
Right?
is
So,
wild.
which is interesting because whoever bought this to lease it out, if they didn't pay cash, they're taking a slight or a major
Massive.
negative hit every month. I mean, it depends. It depends on what they're putting down for their, like if they're putting more than 25% down, they're going to drop the mortgage insurance premium and a couple other things. So, but this is really, really interesting to see. This is a 3-3. What was the other one? It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. Yeah. Same thing. Almost the same house. Double the monthly payment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know,
So,
yes. Yeah, no, that's interesting because I've actually been I do think about this particular scenario from time to time. I have a couple midterm rentals and where people stay for 4 to 6 months. And honestly, I've run the numbers before and I thought, wow, if I were to sell this house today, the mortgage would be X amount, and it actually ends up being cheaper by a little bit to rent out for a few months a fully furnished home through Airbnb or short-term rentals instead of buying it and having it be completely vacant and then you have to furnish it and take care of it. Side note.
I talk to a lot of clients as if every purchase is an investment long
Mm-hmm.
term, because even if they only plan to live it in a few years, if there's some kind of weird shift in the market or something like that, you want to be able to hold on to the house and or rent it out.
Yeah.
Right? And so this is one of those things where it's like you never, like if you're paying $5,000 a month until you get it knocked down, like through refinancing or something else, you never want to be in a position where you have to sell it unless there's some major catastrophic situation in
Mm-hmm.
your life, right?
Exactly.
Because it's going to take a minute for that price parity, because you can't rent it out. You can't rent it out for what the mortgage payment is.
Absolutely not.
I think that's the dilemma for a buy and hold investor in the greater Austin area. You end up with numbers like that.
Well, and it started happening during the pandemic, and it started climbing and climbing and climbing. But as you saw, there's still the flip opportunity now where you can buy a house and rent, and your mortgage payment is almost the same as what you could rent it out for, and maybe you can even get a surplus or have a profit from renting it out.
You're saying that's
I don't know.
happening.
I'm saying you have the ability to do that now, where in the suburbs, at least with this particular example, new construction, it's still challenging.
Yeah, it is.
And again, this is that particular example. Obviously, we evaluate these all the time. Yeah, this is kind of what we do. I want to pull these up just so we don't miss them
Finish
out.
up
So
with the
Janitor on
comments.
Fire says, yeah, traffic. I forgot traffic. You are not wrong. I was sitting in traffic this morning. It was a lot of fun.
Yep,
Glad
traffic
my car
sucks.
drives itself. Once all the cars drive themselves, then traffic will be less of a headache. Okay, so James says, okay, traffic, I agree. Overbuilt. Why aren't prices still so high then? That's too much inventory equals price decline. Janitor on Fire says, put 5% down on a conventional loan, live there for 12 months, convert the formal dining room into an extra bedroom, and house hack, rinse and repeat every 12 months.
That's a value add.
Okay.
You know, I remember a couple years ago. No. This was like right as the pandemic started. Somebody ended up getting a new construction home. I think they had to relocate, something like that. They put their home on the market. It was a 4-bedroom house. They on Airbnb, they had each room that you could rent out, or the whole house, or the living room. So they did have 5 spaces that you could rent.
Gross.
Or you could rent the whole house. And it's hilarious because they're doing exactly what Janitor on Fire is saying.
Yeah, I've seen people like rent out the pool back in just the pool in the back.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
like
Swimply all
thing.
day. If you need a link to Swimply, I'll put that in the description below our video. Not sponsored, but open to the conversation. Swimply, thank you.
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, this is good. I really like this conversation. If you like this conversation, let us know, because I think doing stuff like this is kind of a departure from the things we normally do, but I think it's fun. It's educational.
Super
and it
fun.
gives us keeps everybody on their toes and seeing what's going on in the Austin area.
Because it's easy for us to calculate that stuff. Like we just get on, we play with MLS, we play with some math. And I think people don't know how to wrap their heads around it.
Yeah, that people aren't aware of the tools that they have so easily, because it can be very overwhelming.
It is
Very
it can
overwhelming.
be,
So people shut down, and that's, I mean, with so many things, not just this.
Right.
Yeah.
So JJ, what would you say to people that are watching this that
know what I was
haven't gotten
saying.
started or sitting on the fence?
Because we do this so much. This is like what happens when you call us and you're like, hey, I'm thinking about this. And then you see us, what map, let's go on the map, go through this. So, talk to your professionals, any of us, and play with the math. It's like a harmless math equation at the end of the day. Don't get too worked up about it. Just kind of work through the numbers and play with it, play with appreciation. What if I do this? What if I do that? And see what comes out. I would go through those exercises and kind of, that'll like deter the fear part and the overwhelm.
Yeah.
How about you, Daphne? What do you think?
I think owning property can be a really powerful tool for anybody that's able to, if the numbers make sense, right? Like that house in Cedar Park, absolutely hard effing no. But if you go to another part of town and you're willing to make some sacrifices, no, let me rephrase that. You'll probably need to make some sacrifices, especially if it's a first home purchase. Find somewhere where the numbers make sense. And market fluctuations are inevitable. It's just like stocks. If you're constantly watching stocks and freaking out about it, you'll never do well. Same thing in real estate. Markets go up and down, prices go up and down. Buy something, commit to it, stay with it long term. It's bound to appreciate. You'll have equity, and it's a really, really powerful way to go.
Yeah, I would say that I don't know if enough people, when they're buying a place, they think about what are the long-term effects of this place, other than this is going to be my forever home. And I would almost encourage you to think this will not be my forever home, and what does that mean? And so when you're working with a savvy realtor, we go through things like this and we say, okay, well, this is what it could look like in 5 years if you ended up having to move, so that you're in a good spot, or at least you're educated. You're educated with what can come about and what your options are before you make any offers. So I like this evaluation. I think it was a good time, and I'm curious to hear what everyone else thinks, and if you'd like us to do more of this or shift back to something different.
Cool.
All the things.
Awesome. Appreciate y'all tuning in.
Yeah, thank you so much. Daphne, what's our next topic?
I don't know that we have one yet.
I think we did. We talked about one. JJ, do you remember?
Development.
I think we were talking about developments in the next couple. What new developments are coming up?
Yeah, I did not know that.
Okay, well, next time tune in and we'll talk about the new developments.
Tune in for a surprise episode of Real Estate Lab.
Yeah. It's so funny. All right, y'all. Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.